For today we're playing Avowed and with the RTX 3080. And we're playing at 1080p at the max settings. No RT. No DLSS for now as well. Right, here we are with that. Again, RT is disabled and no upscaling. Alright, see you guys in the game. Starting in the town. This is the first town after the intro. And we're sitting into the 70s and the 80s. GPU wise, I guess it is maxed out, but if I move around, it does drop down quite a bit into the high 80s, for example. Still though, 80 to 90 FPS isn't that bad for 1080p. I mean, it isn't great, but it is running at native. So 60 FPS or near 60 FPS at 1440p should be doable as well. I mean, right here though, it does get pretty close. 70, it's around 70 FPS, with dips into the high 60s. Can feel some stutters here and there, but it's pretty minor. Let's get up here. What do we have down here? It's a pretty fun game, I can't even lie, but honestly, it came out at a bad time. It released at like 5 AM here, which is just awful. I got up to try it out. I thought maybe I could do a video as well, but just didn't have enough time. So I was like, I'll just wait. I'll play the next day. Try to find a good spot. And yeah. I think realistically, you're sitting at 70 FPS with this one. Easier scenes in the 90s. And it can fall down a bit lower into the mid 60s as well. So keep that in mind. But yeah, should be sitting into the 70s on average. This guy's not even reacting to me. What? Freest kill ever. And yeah, I can feel some stutters here and there, but overall, I think it's pretty good for the max settings. For our VRAM, it is sitting at 6.5 gigs. Honestly, pretty respectable. You have games like Spider-Man and like Monster Hunter where like they use up 6 gigs on the low settings. So this is the max settings and it's using up 6.5 gigs. You have plenty of headroom. You can try RT as well. Obviously the FPS will be lower, but for the VRAM, we have headroom still, so should be okay in that aspect. So let's pause it here, guys, back out, enable DLSS, and try it again. That was some crazy pop in there, look at that. Using DLSS. Yeah, setting into the mid 80s here. Honestly, not a massive jump. Yeah, it feels about the same. 70 to 80. Let's see how we go outside though, because outside it was sitting into the 70s on average with dips into the 60s. Let's see if that happens again. I mean, it's still the 70s to be honest, so maybe a small jump, if any at all. But we haven't fell into the, oh, there we go, the mid 60s anyway. Same stutters, same FPS dips. Honestly, feels pretty similar with this preset, which kind of sucks. But I guess we'll see how we go at 4K, for example. I'm sure the jump will be a lot more at a higher resolution. Ooh, the 50s there. Okay, this AI is just not even reacting to me. He's stuck. What is he doing? Pretty glitchy, but I guess we are in early access right now, in the 5-day early access period. So I'm sure there's going to be a day 1 patch when it comes out officially. And also the drivers came out late as well. It's not perfect, obviously. Has issues like stuttering, some popping here and there, FPS dips, but overall, for a Game Pass game, it's pretty good. Again, full price plus the upgrade for the early access isn't really worth it, I would say. But on sale or Game Pass, it's absolutely worth it. And I think on the ROG Ally, since that comes with 3 months of Game Pass, hey, if that plays well at 60 FPS, that would be fantastic as well. And I'll have the ROG Ally video out probably tonight. Probably 6 hours after this one goes live. Okay, let's pause it here, guys, back out, play at 1440p, and try it again. 1440p, epic settings, no RT, no DLSS. Let's see how we go now, guys. So before we set into the 70s on average, up into the 80s as well at times, and the peak was the 90s. Lowest point, the 60s. Right here we're sitting at 40 FPS. That is a massive decrease. So around a 30 to 40 FPS decrease, but the graphics look amazing. This game looks fantastic now. It is super sharp, looks super crisp. If you can play at a high resolution, I definitely would. And I bet at 4K, even better. So yeah, the mid 30s and the low 40s here. I mean, it is playable, I guess, on a controller, but ideally I want to get 60 FPS in a first-person game. So with DLSS, hopefully it does look good and plays well as well. But yeah, right here, a lot of stutters, way more than before. And yeah, FPS wise, obviously, quite a bit lower as well. Little rat. There we go. Yeah, the stutters are definitely far more obvious at this resolution. The game feels far more sluggish as well on the mouse. And using balanced DLSS, we're now sitting at 70 FPS here. So again, a 30 FPS increase or a 20 to 30 FPS increase. For the graphics, looks quite nice. Over there though, kind of grainy I would say. Not great, but overall, looks pretty good. GPU wise, mostly maxed out. Kind of drops down here and there. And coming over here, it falls down into the high 50s and the low 60s. Might fall lower into the 40s at times in those heavier scenes, or if there's going to be a heavier scene. But for me, I think this is good enough. It does stutter still, keep that in mind. It isn't perfect, but for me, it's better than 1080p, that's for sure. 4K, epic settings, no DLSS, and we're sitting at 25 FPS here. From the 40s to the mid 20s now. Okay, these graphics look insane, guys. It is super sharp. Oh my god, it looks amazing. Oh, and also we can lower the settings as well. So if you're not a fan of DLSS, or if you want to get more frames on top of DLSS, then just lower the settings to high or medium and get that extra FPS boost on top. So yeah, before it did fall into the 50s and the low 60s. So for the extra headroom, just lower the settings and it should be good there. Yep, game is very sluggish as you would expect, falling below 20 FPS, and the stutters are like before as well, quite aggressive. Alright, performance DLSS, and we're now sitting at 50 FPS. So a 30 FPS increase pretty much. Not quite 60, but again, we can load the settings and get that 60 FPS mark back. But to be honest, 50 FPS feels fine. Feels pretty responsive as well. 40 FPS isn't as good on the mouse, but 50 feels like 60 to me, so you can't really tell. So yeah, I think we might have to lower the settings to maybe high or medium, or a mix of both, to get a consistent 60 at 4K, which isn't bad. For the graphics, it isn't as good as before, sadly. It is definitely softer, but it does look good enough. So I think so far for the max settings, the sweet spot is 1440p, looks the sharpest, and the performance is still 60. Because with this, it's a bit softer, and the FPS is still below 60. Alright, medium settings, 4K with DLSS, and we're sitting at almost 80 FPS here, guys. So again, a 30 FPS increase of what we had before. Just amazing. Game is super responsive now. It is super fluid. And just looking at the game right now, it looks pretty good. Can't really complain about any of the graphics. I'm sure it's a bit lower, but just playing the game, it will look good enough, I would say. And you're right here, sitting into the low 60s and the low 70s. So again, a 20 to 30 FPS increase in this section here. In this section, the pop-in is way worse than before. That is the most obvious downgrade from the Epic preset. But other than that, looks pretty good, I would say. So yeah, that is Avowed, guys, on the RTX 3080. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Next video. See you guys there.